And it is that while the lethality of their power is greater than ever, their capacity to impose control over the politically awakened masses of the world is at a historical low. Namely, in earlier times, it was easier to control 1 million people, literally. It was easier to control 1 million people than physically to kill 1 million people. Today, it is infinitely easier to kill 1 million people than to control 1 million people.
The smoke in the air of our Concord bridges and Pearl Harbors is always smelled first by the farmers who come from their simple homes to find the fire and fight.
But if you embark on instituting a society where government protects you from yourself, you're in big trouble, and that's what they're doing. That's all government is force. I mean, do you have a choice about paying Medicare taxes? This government uses force to mold behavior or mold the economy. They've overstepped the bounds, and they violated the whole concept of our revolution and our Constitution.
Welcome, everybody, to the Friday edition of the Freedom Link right here on the Orion Talk Radio Network. I'm Joe Joseph, along with my good buddy Johnny King. John, how are you doing this fine Friday evening?
I am doing absolutely fantastic. Thanks for asking, Joe. I've waited for today since Sunday at 8 p.m. I work for the weekend, buddy. How are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. And, folks, boy, oh boy, do we have a broadcast for you tonight, because we have Supreme Allied Commander YouTube here with us tonight. That's right, folks. ChangeDaChannel from YouTube has joined us tonight to give us his insight on some current events and sound off on some issues that are important to him. So welcome aboard, man. How's it going?
Hey, how's it going, Joe? How y'all guys doing?
Oh, man, I tell you what. So you want the honest truth? I'm a little flustered about some of the things that I've heard today. Of course, I'm normally flustered every day, but outside of that, I'm doing all right. Glad to have you here, that's for sure.
Oh, thanks. Glad to be here, bud.
Oh, man, it's awesome. So let's get started, shall we? And I'm going to start off, folks, with Chris Matthews. Now, you see, Chris Matthews is he's not a friend of mine now. CDC, is he a friend of yours?
No, that cat's a turd, man.
I was just going to say, guys, I apologize. I thought I flushed him.
No, okay. Well, anyway, folks, let me tell you something. We got a little audio that I want to play, and I'm going to have the guys here chime in, simply because, I mean, I was literally made sick to my stomach when I heard this. And I don't know if I'll get through the whole thing without having to stop, but we'll get through as much as we can. And I want you guys to sound off. Anything, you just tell me to stop. And the whole reason is, folks, is because you have to understand the psyop that's being played out on the American people right now. I mean, they're taking out all the stops for all 7 viewers of MSNBC, but still those 7 viewers are just getting it hot and heavy lately with, this diatribe about how the Patriot movement is just this god-awful, extremist, terrorist organization filled with hatred. When really...
You got this off of misinformation NBC?
Yeah, and let me tell you something. It's now, I don't know, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I know this, that they're pulling out all the stops because we are making a difference. CDC, don't you think that, buddy?
Definitely. And, I read the letter that they sent and everything, and it's just there's no logic in it. That's the thing. Anytime these people say anything, they do anything, they got no logic about it. It's easily broke down. It's like, what? How can you throw certain group people in to a cesspool of groups that, a hate group? It just doesn't make any sense to me. How are you going to take a hate group, you're going to categorize that, you're going to have these people in there, and then all of a sudden you can start picking at other groups of people because you have a political difference of opinion. It doesn't make any sense, and it's just dirty. It is dirty, and like you said, it is a psyops, definitely.
It is. No, you're absolutely right, and especially when, at least Johnny and I, and I'm sure you too, we're all about love, peace, and harmony. That's all we want out of this world, is to have a better world for our children. And if you think that that's hate, well then, I hate to tell you, but you don't know what hate is. So without further ado, let me bring Chris Matthews in on this and give him, let's hear his take on things, shall we?
Welcome back to Harbor. The crazies are still on the rise. A study by the Southern Poverty Law Center finds that the number of anti-government patriot groups has exploded over the last 4 years. According to the study, these groups typically believe that the federal government is conspiring to take Americans' guns away from them and destroy their liberties as it paves the way for a global one-world government. Well,
okay, so what's wrong with what he just said? Because I pretty much think that that's exactly what's going on.
That's what I'm saying. And they don't think anything. We don't think anything. We know.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, okay, let's just go over this one more time, folks. And I know I sound like a broken record. But 1.625 billion rounds of ammunition, both 9mm, 40mm being the major types of ammunition that the government has contracted out. Hollow point, which if you do the math, and at 5.5 million rounds a month, which is what the Iraq War used at its height, that would sustain a Iraq war for 27 years. But they say it's for target practice. So you buy enough ammunition to sustain an Iraq war for 27 years, man, we're going to have the best group of crack shots out there that you could ever possibly imagine. I mean, they are just going to be zoned in.
How many of those out of those were hollow points? Do you know rounds that they bought?
The majority of them, it was about it was over 700 million. If not more than that. I think it was more than that. It was actually over 1 million. 1.1 million rounds. That's it right there. 1.1 million rounds of hollow point ammunition. And then they had 223 in there. They had some 357. They had a whole plethora of things. But, yeah, I mean, and of course they say because, this government is out to do this and bring in this one world government, destroy the liberties. Okay, so that's just one aspect of it. But let's take a look at gun registration and gun universal background checks. Now, what's your thoughts on that? Because I need to know from another person, maybe, instead of just me and Johnny talking CDC, I want to know what you think about that, how you feel about universal background checks and gun registration.
I think it's all insane. I really do, because, I mean, and I can understand the basic concept of that, some kind of registration. But in the end, it's always these cats do these things, and it's never good. You give them an inch, they take a mile. There's no common sense in it. There's no logic. It's like trying to ban a gun because of its aesthetics, the way it looks, an AR-15, and it's just insane. There's no logic in any of this stuff. I mean, I can see some people's argument, but, I don't know. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I am armed. Yep. And I don't do anything wrong. I don't break any laws. I don't go out, start trouble, I don't do anything. I just raise my family, take care of my family and I do my activism out here trying to point this stuff out. And I don't mess with, I guess I am messing with them. But they deserve it, It's
yeah,
not like
they deserve it.
Harming anybody, but some people are so scared. Some people are just scared. If you could just take out a weapon and set it on the table in front of some people, and they would defecate on themselves or something. It's just they're so scared, like this object is going to do something. It's so demonized.
That's right.
I just never raised that way. I mean, for my whole life, I was born in Virginia, and in the mountains. So I mean, I just always been around guns, and when I was in school, we used to carry our guns in our gun racks and park on the school parking lot, and nobody ever said anything, and nobody ever got shot. But they don't want to look at the real problem of this issue, which is Big Pharma. And every single case of any of these gun violence, for the most part on these events, I'll say, is that these kids have been on all of these psychoactive drugs, and they're messing people up. They're causing people to commit suicide. A lot of the kids are just doping them up.
And I think we haven't I don't even think we've scratched the surface with that yet.
Exactly.
As far as what the long-term effects are, a lot of these drugs that the kids are being put on. I know from personal experience that even the non-stimulant medication that they claim, well, it's non-stimulant, so don't worry about it, baby, fist pump. No, it's not like that. It has
until they go whoops, like they always do. They just said all of a sudden they approve, FDA approves this stuff, and then when it goes away and kills a bunch of people, then they can sit there and go whoops and do their paperwork, and it's all cool in the gang. But then again, they won't approve. They say they don't want you to have raw milk and stuff like that. It's like, man, get out of here with that crap. It don't even make sense. At least come with a valid argument about this stuff and not be so hypocritical and right in our face with this stuff. It's insane. They approve DDT. They approve, just all this stuff that just kills us. If you watch a pharmaceutical being sold on TV and the TV commercial, all you got is all of this whole list. 75% of the commercial is spent on telling you all these adverse effects. And, if you experience this, that, and something else, it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
It is insane. But let's just take it a step farther, right? So you got that. We got the gun control thing, which, by the way, folks, remember, it always goes like this. You have to be a student of history. Know the past. You can see the present and predict the future. And the thing is, take a look at the Turks and the Armenians, turn of the century. They had registration, confiscation, genocide. Take a look at Stalin with the Ukrainians. Registration, confiscation, genocide. How about Hitler? Oh, let's see. Maybe he changed the playbook up a little bit. No, registration, confiscation, genocide. And same with Mao. And we can go on and on. All of these countries that have enacted gun registration has led to gun confiscation and in turn has led to genocide each time. And we hear each time. John, you were just talking about somebody at work telling you, oh, that would never happen in the United States.
Oh, absolutely. He's a total Obamophile, thinks that people that think like us are terrorists. He came just short of calling people that are like-minded terrorists, Joe. He doesn't believe that anything like that could happen inside the United States, that the people would rise up and squash it.
Yeah.
Totally asleep.
Yeah, right. But again, and this is just a little bit of it. CDC, we got the economy the way it is. Of course, now the new numbers came out today, and they're like, wow, look at this job growth. Woo! We're rolling now, baby. But what they fail to tell everybody is it's all government fueled and all Federal Reserve fueled through their easy money policy. And when that dries up, what the heck is going to happen?
Right. They're just floating it along. I mean, look at it's a record of 89 million Americans not in the labor force. Not in the labor force, which is different from all the statistics they try to push with the economy, with unemployment, anything like that. There's always these little holes, these loopholes, so that they can try to make you think everything's going good. And that's what they do. We pay a lot of them to do it.
That's right. So, I mean, there's a lot of dynamics in play here. And to say that we're just making this up is total and complete idiocy. As a matter of fact, if you plug in, you can't deny what is going on. So let's continue with this fairy tale that Chris Matthews is trying to spin.
These are groups like the Constitution Party.
Oh, God forbid the Constitution Party.
We Are Change.
Oh, Luke Rudowski, you scumbag.
Tyranny Response Team and Americans for a Free Republic. And these.
Oh, God forbid Americans for a Free Republic. Oh, God, no. No. They're going to take over the country. Oh.
These anti-government patriot groups have skyrocketed.
Let me stop there for a second. CDC, do you think that the majority of these groups are anti-government? Or do you think that they're anti-corruption? See, because that's what I think. I don't think they mind a government per se, but I do think that they mind corruption. Now, I don't know. I want to get your thoughts on that, because there has to be a rule of law in order for things to really to have order where you have 315 million people, but you have to have equal justice under the law, where it's not social justice where, okay, well, the law applies to you, but not to my cronies and the guys that are paying into my campaign fund. So what's your thoughts on that?
You know, it goes to the extremes again. That's where they always bring it to the extremes, you know. We're not anti-government. It's just like calling somebody a conspiracy theorist, you know. It's, you know, people just throw that out. You hate the government, you're anti-government, you hate this country. They'll put that right along with it too, and they'll put it all in the same box. And it doesn't make any sense. It's like, why do I have to hate my country? Because I'm angry at the policies and these people, you know, these crooked, guilty of all kinds of crimes by their own admission in documents.
Yep.
You know, and then say, no, I'm anti that for sure. But anti-government, you know, I mean, I'm not I never see myself as being anti-government. I've been in the military. You know, and I always loved this country. I just didn't like the way it was run with these people. I see a system that's in place and a constitution and a Bill of Rights that's right on the money. It's right on the money. It sets it out and lays it out. So this stuff is not supposed to happen, but, you know, they don't really care about it. They don't care.
John King, your thoughts?
Joe, they're not anti-government. They're anti-globalist is what they are.
Yeah.
They're not even against anti-corruption, or they're not even against corruption, or because I think corruption and government go hand in hand, and that's basically what politicians do. Those groups that are out there do not want to cede sovereignty of the United States to the globalist agenda. That's what they're against. And if that means government, well, then I guess that's what they're against. They're against the globalist government.
I guess if that makes me a hater, I guess I'm a hater. There's no other way to put it. I guess I'm a hater. I don't know. CDC, you a hater? I think you're a hater too.
I'm definitely, you know, defined by them. Yes, I am a hater. For sure.
Well, let's continue because I'm feeling some hatred right now.
Number during President Obama's time in office, there were only 149 groups back in 2008. In 2012, there were more than 1,300, and that's an increase of over 800%. Look.
Now, folks, let me just say this right now, because I'm not even going to get through a minute of this thing before I end up like blowing a gasket. But I will tell you this: that's a very encouraging number. You know, the statistic that he gave is in 2008, there were 149 anti-government patriot groups, which, of course, the majority of them aren't anti-government. They're anti-globalist, anti-corruption, and they're actually asking the tough questions. They're doing the right things, doing what citizens of the country are supposed to be doing, holding their government to account. And now there's 1,360. And that's probably that's probably lowballing. Because I know many people out there that have websites, that have blogs, that are active in one way, shape, or form, that I think that number's a lot bigger than what they're saying. What do you think, CDC?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, these are the groups that they started putting in there, you know, they just came, one of their researchers, analysts just happened to come across these groups, start putting them in the pile. But definitely, there's a lot of people out there. I've traveled this country, touring around at least 9 times, and I've talked to people all around, you know, this beautiful country. And all I found was discourse in the handling of this country by the people in there. I mean, you know, some people with Obama, they were, oh, well, it's cool. He's a nice guy. You know, they're totally brainwashed and stuff like that. But they still didn't like their paycheck. They didn't like how they were, you know, their livelihood. I mean, you know, not their family or anything, but just having to struggle and how it gets worse and worse and worse. For some reason, the rich get richer and richer, and the poor get poorer and poorer. It's just been the same.
Anytime you have a downturn, you know, the rich have the resources to be able to say, well, you know, I could see that you're going through hard times, so we'll buy this from you at a fraction of what it's worth. You know, they end up making a ton of money on whatever it is, you know, being bought or sold, and you're out. You know, and that's the issue. You're just trying to get by, and the majority of the Americans are trying to get by. I mean, this is clearly an attack on the middle class, and what they're trying to do is get that whole idea of having that large slave class, and then a very small. I hate to call them elite, but let's just call them, for all intents and purposes, a-holes. There we go. So, I mean, if you take that into consideration, and that's really what it is, then you take a look at their agenda and what they're trying to push. Like, for example, CDC, we're seeing for the first time in recorded history since the flood, we're seeing the population of the earth go down. You know, what does that say? Here they are talking about, oh, well, you know, the earth's overpopulated. Well, we got to do something. No, it's not. It's actually the population's starting to decrease because of all the things and all the policies and the spraying and everything that they're doing is actually starting to take its toll. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when people don't see that, I mean, how can you not be outraged by that?
And you notice they pushed the whole, well, we're living longer than they did 100 years ago, or, you know, and I'm sitting there thinking, like, just from, you know, and not from any internet stuff, but just from me visually experiencing, seeing a lot of people are dying at younger ages.
Yes.
Because, I mean, you know, 40 and 50 years old, especially within there from cancers, you know, and heart attacks and just like all this crazy stuff, disease and all this stuff. And I'm like, no, my grandparents, they grew to be an old age.
Yeah.
You know, they did a lot older than their children's generation has.
Yeah.
And it's been getting worse, for sure.
My grandparents, my great-grandparents, they all lived in their 80s and 90s. No problem. You know, I just had a buddy at work drop dead a couple months back, 47 years old, just dropped. Done. Ticker gave out, no sign, no health problems, just done. And it's been happening a lot lately. And, I mean, you think about the people that you're around. You think about, and you brought up a great point, cancer, you know. Cancer's exploded in this country. 1 in 3 people get cancer now. You
don't even know, from all the stuff you've bombarded with from birth, you don't know what got you. It might have been all of the MSG and the Doritos you've been eating since the 80s or something, you know?
That's right. So, folks, hey, just sit tight. Go get yourself some coffee. We'll be right back in about 5 minutes. Much more with YouTuber ChangeDaChannel when the Freedom Link returns. We'll be right back. Welcome back, folks. Don't forget the email address is info@thefreedomlink.net. That's info@thefreedomlink.net. And you can visit us today, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, or even watch us on Roku. It's www.thefreedomlink.net, www.thefreedomlink.net. Joe Joseph here, along with Johnny King. Our special guest, YouTuber, ChangeDaChannel. The man, the myth, the legend, coming alive here on the radio. And before we get back to him, it's time to call the King's Court into session. Johnny King, take it away.
Why does everything seem like it's in perpetual motion in this country? Arrogance, self-importance, ignorance, stupidity. There is a difference, you know. Ignorance can learn, for it has no knowledge. Stupidity has knowledge, but it is incapable of learning. Deep thoughts with John King.
Boy, you ain't.
We never seem to learn. We just gave $250 million to Egypt. That's the Muslim Brotherhood, if I'm not mistaken. Now, are they the good terrorists or the bad ones? We give aid to Al-Qaeda in Libya, the good terrorists, and fight Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, the bad terrorists. We fight them over there so we won't have to fight them over here. Now we hear phrases like domestic terrorists. Such a handy word to use, isn't it? Like domestic help. Is that what domestic terrorism is? Domestic help for the globalists to initiate their global plan for America? The government wants to cut $82 billion, but spend $2.1 trillion. That's like taking a cup of water out of a 5-gallon bucket full of water. The cuts, which will no doubt, once instituted, will intentionally hurt the poorest of Americans first. See, neither side, the left or right, or the R's and the D's, if you will, had the balls to do what they needed to do, so they used the old congressional gridlock and let the automatic cuts they put into place and that Obama wanted take effect. What can you expect from a politician but a cowardly move? I'm tired of politicians running this country. We need statesmen. I'm tired of hearing they hate us for our freedom. That's just not true. If they hate freedom, then why don't they hate Canada, Iceland, Holland, Germany, Japan, or any other democracy? They hate us because of our transgressions against them as well as the company we keep and protect. They hate us because we overthrow legitimate governments and install NATO puppets and dictators to quell public dissent. When their boy gets out of hand, we invade. Do you know we're now in Africa? Do you know why we're in Africa? Let me tell you from Wikipedia. Africa has a large quantity of natural resources, including oil, diamonds, gold, iron, cobalt, uranium, copper, bauxite, silver, petroleum, and cocoa beans, but it also has woods and tropical fruits. Much of its natural resources are undiscovered or barely harnessed. Having a low human density for a long period of time, Africa has been colonized by more dynamic groups exploiting African resources. Some economists who have talked about the scourge of raw materials, large quantities of rare raw materials, putting Africa under heavy pressures and tensions, leading to wars and slow development. Despite these abundance of natural resources, claims suggest that many Western nations like the U.S., UK, Canada, China, and France often exploit Africa's national resources today, causing most of the value of the money from the natural resources to go to the West rather than to Africa, further causing poverty in Africa. Now you know why the elite want them all killed off as well. It's not because they're hungry or poor. They are hungry because they're being exploited. They want them dead because they cannot fight back, and Africa is a rich territory for undiscovered natural resources like gold and oil, etc. If they grew turnips there, do you think we would be there? It's also a good location to launch an invasion from. Food for thought. Bon appetit. Court adjourned.
Thank you, Johnny. Now, CDC, you did you get to watch any of the Rand Paul filibuster that went down the other day?
I seen bits and pieces of it, but I mean, I thought it was pretty cool though. I like it. I like it. You know, it's an old style filibuster, and he had the balls to stand up and do it, and he brought attention to an issue that people act as like no big deal, and it really is.
It is. It's a huge deal. It's an enormous deal. Here, this man stood alone. Now, you don't have to agree with everything that Rand Paul says or stands for. I mean, we know he's not Ron Paul. I don't expect him to be his dad. I'm not my father. And I'm sure everybody out there, you're not your father. You're your own person, and you come to your own conclusions, and you form your own thoughts and opinions.
I liked it because those certain people didn't like it. I mean, they really embraced it. Yeah. Look at McCain. He's sitting there like, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, man, sit down. You don't do nothing. This guy had the balls to stand up, and he brought attention. You act like it's no big deal. Why don't you let the American public make that decision?
I think he said in the long run, you're going to do damage to the Republican Party. No, you're not. And you know what he had the nerve to say? He had the nerve to say, I think it was him or Lindsey Graham, one of the two, had the nerve to say, oh, yeah, that was a stunt to play to his libertarian, all the libertarian kids in the dorms.
And then where were they eating the other night? Who were they eating with?
Exactly.
Dinner with Obama. Yeah.
With the usurper in chief, Chairman Obama. That's right. And so anyway, Lou Rockwell's blog, William Grigg, wrote today, he says it took a 13-hour filibuster from Senator Rand Paul to wring this terse statement from Attorney General Eric Holder. Quote, "It has come to my attention that you now ask an additional question. Does the president have the authority to use a weaponized drone to kill an American not engaged in combat on American soil? And that answer is no." Yeah, well, like all statements from people who presume to rule others, the brief message from Holder, who is Nikolai Krylenko to Obama's Joseph Stalin, should be read in terms of the supposed authority claimed thereby. This means removing useless qualifiers in the interest of clarity. What Holder is saying in substantive terms is that the president does have the supposed authority to use a drone to kill an American who is engaged in, quote, combat, whether here or abroad. Combat can consist of expressing support for Muslims mounting armed resistance against U.S. military aggression, which was the supposed crime committed by Anwar al-Awlaki, or shared the surname and DNA of a known enemy of the state, which was the offense committed by al-Awlaki's 16-year-old son, Abdel. Under the rules of engagement used by the Obama regime in Pakistan, Yemen, and Afghanistan, any military-age male found within a targeted kill zone is likely or likewise designated a combatant, albeit usually after the fact. This is a murderous application of the Texas sharpshooter fallacy, and it will be used often, or used when, not if, Obama or a successor starts conducting domestic drone killing operations. Holder selected a carefully qualified question in order to justify a narrowly tailored answer that reserves an expansive claim of executive power to authorize summary executions by the president. And that, my friends, is how totalitarians operate. And, you know, you think about the language in the NDAA that talked about making the United States a battlefield. You know, CDC, why would they have to do that if, you know, there's no problems here? If that would never happen in America.
Oh, no, I don't think they're ready for it. They would need an event right now, something, you know, some buffer to help it get through. I don't think they would start that unless they were, you know, they got to ease into things. They learned from the empires of the past, the failures of the past.
Yeah.
You know, from Hitler and from Mao and from all of them, you know, these guys want to do it right. And they've been just taking little bit by little bit. And anytime any major event happens, they'll get a big jump in their progression. You know, I don't think that they'll go out and start, you know, get you used to the drones first, start using them for the different things, and then they would ease into it. But I believe there would have to be some kind of event that would happen just to get the ball rolling with it. You know, to get the American public used to them. Hey, well, we're killing people here in America as a suspect.
Right, the Hegelian dialectic. Right. You know, exactly. if you can't get this thing through, if you can't get any legislation through or get the things that you want, then you manufacture or you execute an event that will make the people more than willing to accept what you wanted before, but they were unwilling to accept prior to that event. And that brings us to 9/11, because 9/11, of course, was the crown jewel of the Hegelian dialectic, because for years before that, they were trying to get through the Patriot Act under a different name, but they just couldn't do it. So they needed their event in order to make it happen.
And look what they called it, the Patriot Act. I mean, there's nothing patriotic about it. I mean, that's how they do us. That's how they do us. That's got to be an inside joke of some sort that they laugh at. The people who come up with these things, the title, let's make candy coat it, make it sound good. Let's call it the Patriot Act. And it was anything but patriotic.
Well, the New York Times' Maureen Dowd wrote today, in a documentary soon to appear on Showtime, The World According to Dick Cheney. Cheney said, quote, "I got on the telephone with the president, who was in Florida, and told him not to be at one location where we could both be taken out. Mr. Cheney kept W flying aimlessly in the air on 9/11, while he and Lynn left on a helicopter for a secure, undisclosed location, leaving Washington in a bleak, scared silence, with no one reassuring the nation in those first terrifying hours. Quote, I gave the instruction that we'd authorize our pilots to take it out. He says, referring to the jet headed to Washington that crashed in a Pennsylvania field. He adds, quote, after I'd given the order, it was pretty quiet. Everybody had heard it. and it was obviously a significant moment. Now, when they testified together before the 9/11 Commission, W and Mr. Cheney kept up the pretense that in a previous call, the president had authorized the vice president to give a shoot-down order if needed. But the commission found no documentary evidence for this call. In other words, Cheney pretended that Bush had authorized a shoot-down order, but Cheney now admits that he never did. In fact, Cheney acted as if he was the president on 9/11. You know, and here's the issue. We could poke all the holes we want in 9/11 because we know that it didn't happen the way they said it did. I think, you know, there was a New York Times poll maybe 5-6 years back, CDC, that showed that it was about 80% of people did not believe the government's account of 9/11, yet they stay eerily silent about it.
You know, I mean, when you look at the commission's report, the author and the people that were on the commission admit that they were lied to. So here's a book that's supposed to tell us, what happened that day, and they put it out, but yet they openly admit that they were lied to, and a lot of information in there wasn't correct because they were lied to. And I mean,
right.
This shows you how stupid these people really think we are.
Right. You know? And how smart they think they are too, because look at what it ushered in. You know, and to an extent, I guess people are stupid. They're selectively stupid, or as I like to call them, willfully ignorant of the fact that these people operate with absolute impunity and loot us right before our eyes, and still people do nothing. Now, for all you folks out there saying, well, you know, we don't make a difference, look at the numbers again given out by MSNBC. 2008, 148 anti-government patriot groups. And today, 1,360, an 800% increase since Obama's taken to the presidency. So if you think that we're not reaching people, you're sadly mistaken. We are most certainly reaching people. It may not be as fast as we want, but of course this hole wasn't dug in a day either, was it, CDC?
No, I mean, you know, it tells. There's a lot of people mad. They're mad. They wake up to it, so if they get a little collective or a group or anything like that, you know, that they can clump together, they're sticking this hate group thing. It's ridiculous. There's just people mad. I mean, you know, they're like racist people or anything like that, but they stick them right beside there so that they can take, you know, like you said earlier about the SIB. What they do is they take it and they put it out there for the average person. Here's this racist group, right? And they did all these bad things. People see them, they know it. And then all of a sudden they take We Are Change and throw them right beside them. And all of a sudden they're a hate group and they're in this. It's like, it's insane. And there's no logic to it. But people buy it. That's what really gets me the most. I don't see how, you know, as sloppy as they are with it, how open they are with it. It's right in your face. And people just will not accept it. That's what they're doing. And, you know, seriously, I mean, We Are Change has probably been on many a list for what they do. And what they do is nothing wrong with it, you know. Any of the things that we do, there's nothing wrong with it. We're only pointing to their legislation, their declassified documents, the words that they said, the letters that they sent, you know. It's right. Not like we're making stuff up, you know. And it's hard for me to get around that people can't just grasp the basics of it because it's been going on for so long.
It has, folks. If you've never read a book, there's two books that I always recommend to people when they first start out on their journey or you're trying to get people to read something. One, of course, is None Dare Call It Conspiracy by Gary Allen. And the other one is War is a Racket by General Smedley Butler. If you read those two books, you will get an accurate picture of exactly what is going on in this country. And, of course, Gary Allen wrote that book in the 70s, and Smedley Butler wrote War is a Racket, I think, in the 20s and the 30s. So, I mean, this stuff has been going on for a very long time and well before that. That's the thing to understand. But to hear it through seen through the eyes of the most decorated Marine in the history of the world and through a New York Times Pulitzer Prize winning author, you know, I think that's about credible. So for those that need some books to help wake people up, those are two great books to do so. And also, folks, coming up at 10 p.m. Eastern, of course, you know, Popeye from FederalJack.com has his Down the Rabbit Hole broadcast, airs 10 to midnight. Now, he is actually, he's going to be taking Ed Schultz and Dianne Feinstein to the woodshed tonight. So get ready for that. It should be a highly charged broadcast. And I tell you what, you can tell, CDC, when we're on the right track, because that's when all the attacks really come. You know, that's when these Chris Matthews and the Mark Potocks and everybody else, they get really active because they know that we're starting to strike a chord and that people are starting to get it, you know?
Yeah, they are. They totally are. And, you know, I don't try to be negative about people not getting it because more and more people are. And you know, it's like there's a lot of people out there doing their part. A lot of listeners, you know, they're out there doing their parts, you know, to wake people up, whether it's talking to their neighbor, you know, whatever it is that they do. And it is having an effect. And that's why you see these things from the Southern Poverty Law Center, you know, about these groups. You know, it's very apparent that it is having an effect. Because you can see by the hindrance of their actions, too, even though they get away with a lot of stuff, a lot of times when the people step up and it becomes a deal, they are hindered in what they do. They can't do it right now, so they're going to put it on the side burner and wait till later. Maybe they can ease it in, you know, and all of that. So we're definitely having an effect, and a lot of people are waking up. I mean, because it's ridiculous, you know, what they're doing. It's in our face.
Okay, so based on your life experience, what would you say, based on what you know and everything that you've done, how can people get active that are just starting to wake up, or if you know people that are trying to do so and they may not know how to do it, what would you say is one of the best ways to go ahead and do that?
Do what you like to do about it. You know, I feel that like people have it within themselves, you know, maybe I want to take a picture and put a crazy logo over it or something and post it on the internet to people, something. You know, I believe there's an artist in everybody that can be used in this struggle, you know. I mean, many songs have been written that have never been written before by individuals. Paintings has never been painted before. The individual irreplaceable being is like, you know, it's miraculous. And the things and ideas and concepts that that people can come up with that have never been come up with before based on things that they were inspired by that are around them. So it's important to reach those people and tell them, you know, do what you feel, you know, make a picture or write something, write a blog, pass it around to your friends, talk to people, you know, out and listen to them and listen to what they have to say. And you know, even though you might disagree with what they say, see how you can communicate to them, you know, to just give them plant a seed, you know, to say, hey, well, think about this, or, you know, ever how you have to do it, you know, you can do anything if it's just talking to your next door neighbor or somebody at the grocery store, you know, a general conversation. There's so many, it's infinite. I couldn't even begin to tell somebody else what they can do. I can just list some stuff, you know, but like the individual can make it happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What do you feel about people writing their congressman? Do you feel like it's a wasted effort? Because me personally, I don't. And let me tell you why. Because it puts you on the record. It says, look, I don't agree with this. I don't want anything to do with this. I don't agree with it. And I'm making it known to my non-representing representative that that's where I stand. So to me, it's not. What do you think?
Oh, no, I don't think any of it's a waste. You know, I've heard people say protesting is a waste and all of that. And I'm like, and I look at so many good aspects of it. One, within yourself, you know, you're taking the stand and you're making the effort, and that pushes you to go forward. And it's also letting them know, you know, it's letting them know, like, hey, I'm dissatisfied with
that's right,
whatever it is. And it's empowering to you to like, okay, I wrote this letter. Now what am I going to do? And it pushes you forward. I think it's a good thing all the way around. It's like protesting, you know. You should protest. You should. It's guaranteed to us in our Bill of Rights, you know, that we have the freedom to do that and you know, protest and you know, but people don't do it as much because there's this thing over it, like, it doesn't do any good, nobody listens, you know, and all of this stuff. But I'm like, no, they do. And it gets other people, it draws attention to it to the degree that other people elsewhere know that maybe with their thoughts, and they're like, hey, this is messed up, you know, but they feel alone because of the community that they're in or wherever they are, but they realize it, and they realize they're not alone out there, that there's, all these people out there that think the same way about this stuff. We don't like it. It's not fair. It makes no sense, and it needs to stop. I can't believe they continue to get away with the stuff they get away with.
It's amazing. Folks, we're out of time. You can catch Change the Channel on YouTube. Please visit his channel today. Subscribe. CDC, thanks so much for coming on tonight, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you guys for having me out, man.
No sweat, man. Sunday evening, 7 p.m. 7 p.m. Eastern, Sunday night. Conspiracy Chronicles. We'll do McCain and the POW cover-up and drones. Everything you wanted to know, but were too afraid to ask.
Science believes you deserve the right to have a long and healthy life. You deserve to have toxin-free air and water and foods rich in minerals and nutrients. Factory farming, genetically modified foods, and thousands of environmental contaminants are polluting our world and stripping your right to healthy life away from you. FlawlessScience.com helps you regain these rights. FlawlessScience.com makes natural products and provides the best nutraceutical products to enhance your quality of life, your state of health, and well-being. So whether you're struggling with obesity, diabetes, hypertension, memory loss, allergies, high cholesterol, neuropathy, or to spice things up in the bedroom, FlawlessScience.com is here to help you. FlawlessScience.com ships quickly worldwide in discreet packaging and will never sell your information to anyone for any reason. For all your wellness, weight control, extreme muscle building, and nutraceutical needs, visit FlawlessScience.com.